Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am your host, Papa Nick Lewis, and today we are talking about perfect albums. Um, I've done two videos so far in my perfect album series. The first video, I identified the criteria that I use to determine whether an album is perfect or not, and I've got four of them. First, no skippers. You can't skip tracks. Second, as you're listening to it, you can't think of anything that would be done to it that would improve it. Third, it has to be superlative in some way. There's something about it that makes it a step better than its contemporaries, its peers, whatever you're putting it up against, whether it's other albums by that artist, other albums of that genre, other albums of the time, whatever. When you put it into whatever context you put it in, it stands out as a very good example of what you're looking at. And then finally, if it's a perfect album, you should feel uncomfortable listening to it in bits and pieces. If you're going to listen to one song, you want to listen to the whole thing. You don't want to take it in chunks. And then I followed that up with a video where I gave you my first 10 perfect albums. Well, today I'm giving you my next 10 perfect albums. We're going to run through this really quickly because I have essentially the same thing to say about all of these. There aren't any tracks that I skip. I can't think of anything that could be done to the album that would improve it. It's a superlative effort compared to its peers, and I do not want to listen to these things a piece at a time. If I start the thing, I want to finish it. That is true for all 10 of these albums. And as in my last video, I'm arranging these chronologically, so there's no don't read anything into the order of it other than this is the order that they were released. My first album is from 1969, and it is Crosby, Stills and let me find where there we go. Crosby, Stills and Nash. Crosby, Stills and Nash. I like this album a lot. I think the songwriting is fantastic. I love this album. No skippers, blah, blah, blah. The interesting thing about Crosby, Stills, and Nash is that this is really the only album of theirs that I like. I have listened to other albums. I've owned copies of other albums, but this is the only one that's guaranteed. It's going to be in my library till the day I shuffle off my mortal coil. It's just, I really like this. The songs that I think are particular standouts. That was hard to say. Particular standouts include Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, of course, Guinevere. I'm not normally a fan of David Crosby, but Guinevere, that's a stellar song. You Don't Have to Cry is great. Wooden Ships is great. Helplessly Hoping is great. 49 Bye-Byes is great. As you can tell, if I'm going to be following one of these guys, it's going to be Stephen Stills. He tends to be the one I prefer. But overall, it's an excellent album. There's not a clunker on the, there's not a stinker in the batch. Love Crosby, Stills and Nash, and it's the only Crosby, Stills and Nash album that I've heard that I can say that about. So, cool. Next, we jump ahead to 1974 to one of my favorite recording artists of all time. Yes, it is Randy Newman's Good Old Boys. I love this album. I love Randy Newman. Just by default. I think virtually everything he does is great. He could record a half hour of fart bubbles and I'm going to like it. But that being said, the songwriting on this album is a notch above the songwriting he normally has. And the songwriting he normally has is like 5 notches above everybody else's. So there's some serious good songcraft on here. I'm particularly fond of Rednecks, although I am highly uncomfortable with it. I'm very fond of Marie. I think that's a wonderfully sarcastic song, even though most people listen to it and think of it as sincere. Wedding in Cherokee County. I love that song. Guilty. There's just a lot of really good stuff on here. Great album. I would argue a perfect album. Number 3. I've got a Fleetwood Mac album from the mid-'70s, and I know what you're thinking, but no, it's not that one. This is 1975's Fleetwood Mac, not Rumors. If I'm going to pick a Fleetwood Mac album that I have to listen to for the rest of my life, this is going to be the one I pick. I'm not going to pick Rumors. I got nothing against Rumors, don't get me wrong. I just think this is a superior album. It's perfect. No skippers. Nothing is going to improve it. And it is, I think it's superlative, and I don't like listening to it in bits and pieces. The main criticism I have of Fleetwood Mac post, from this point forward, where we've got Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, or then we don't have them and we're trying to replace them with other people. Oh, we've got them back again. Oh, we don't have them anymore. I know. From that point forward, I'm not making a comment about the Peter Green or Bob Welch years. This is strictly about everything from this album forward. The consistent weak link in the chain for me, and I'm going to get a lot of hate over this, is Stevie Nicks. Her voice is not the best in the world, but okay, I could live with a shaky voice. I mean, come on, I'm a Randy Newman fan, for God's sake. But I'm not particularly fond of her songwriting. She tends to write the same song over and over again, and every once in a while she's got a version of it that just is, it's straight out of the park home run. But more often than not, it's okay, lift up the needle and skip to the next song. And Rhiannon is one of her knock it out of the park home runs. So Landslide is as close as I've got to a skipper on this album. And I don't skip it because I love listening to Lindsey Buckingham's guitar on that. The song itself is, it's a pleasant melody and all of that. It's just, it is a song that I could see myself very easily getting tired of hearing. And so out of fatigue, I might be convinced to skip over it, but I don't think of it as a skipper. It's not a song that I know as soon as I put this thing on the turntable that I'm going to be hopping over Landslide. So it doesn't count as a skipper as far as I'm concerned. But that's about the only negative I can say about this album. Fantastic album. Hands down my favorite Fleetwood Mac album. Okay, jumping ahead, that was from 1975. This next one is from 1976. And it is Dreamboat Annie by Heart. I like Heart, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a huge Heart fan. I don't have every album that they've ever done, and I'm not going to go too far with the deep cuts on most of these albums, right? I like them, they're okay, yeah. But this, oh my God, this is a fantastic album. I'm not rating the, like I said up front, I'm arranging these chronologically. I'm not trying to imply anything about the quality of the albums based on the order that they are in. If I were, this would be coming close to, one end or the other, depending on whether I'm counting up or counting down. Because this is, out of the 10, it's one of the best. It is possible. I haven't thought along these lines too hard, because that's not the point of this video. But it's a contender for best album of this stack that I've got. It's fantastic. If you have not listened to this whole album, you need to. It's got the hits that you are familiar with: Magic Man, Crazy on You, Dreamboat Annie, if you listen to FM radio. But it's also got Soul of the Sea, which is lovely. Love Me Like Music, I'll Be Your Song. Oh man, I love that song. How Deep It Goes. Oh, there's just, this is Dreamboat Annie, perfect album. Okay. Now, so far, you've probably recognized a bit of a trend. So this next one is going to be from, left field. Where the hell did that come from? And that is from 1980. Mac Davis's Texas in My Rearview Mirror. I love this album. I like Mac Davis, first off. I think he is, technically, he is a very competent songwriter. Every once in a while, he squeezes out a turd. In the Ghetto is a turd. Baby, Baby, Don't Get Hooked on Me. That one's a turd, right? So every once in a while, he'll pinch off one of these. It's just, come on. but the man knows how to write songs. He had, at some point in the mid 70s, a short lived variety show on NBC, I think. And one of the features of this show was that he would improvise songs based on suggestions from the audience. And somebody would shout something out, and he'd come up with a little ditty about it. Somebody else would shout, and he'd come up with another little ditty. And I was unbelievably, amazingly impressed with this facility he had for generating a melody very quickly and for coming up with a cutesy little rhyme joke. He's got a very good sense of humor. They tended to be very funny songs. I really like Mac Davis, and Texas in My Rearview Mirror is a fantastic album. The closest we've got to a skipper here is the song Rodeo Clown, and I don't think of it as a skipper. I think of it as a song that I have to be in the right mood for, because it is a certain type of country song that I have to be in the mood for it. Again, this is like Landslide on Fleetwood Mac. I'm not plopping this thing on the turntable with the intent of skipping over Rodeo Clown. It just might be if I'm particularly tired, or okay, yeah, I'm not going to listen to it today. That does not make it a skipper as far as I'm concerned. Hooked on Music was the hit that was released off this that made me go buy it. Texas in My Rearview Mirror got excuse me, a little bit of airplay. But it also has Remember When, Beverly's song, which is beautiful. Me and Fat Boy, which is fantastic. Hot Texas Night is great. Hello Hollywood is great. Secrets is great. I mean, this is just a really good crossover country pop album. Love Mac Davis. Love Texas in My Rearview Mirror. Okay, speaking of left turns, so the year after Mac Davis released his album, we've got my next perfect album, and this is from 1981, and it is Leon Redbone's From Branch to Branch. This is the album that introduced me to Leon Redbone. He had a minor hit with the song Seduced, which is on here, which I had heard on the radio, and I really liked, and so the next time I was in a record store, I saw, ooh, that was that song that I liked, and I went ahead and bought it, and I love this album. It helps that I like old music in general, as long as it's performed straightforwardly. I don't like old songs that are modernized for kitschy effect. But if you're doing an old song and you do it the way it used to be done, or if you're just doing a straightforward, I respect the song, so I'm going to sing the song. I love older music. And we've got some wonderful, Mama's Got a Baby Named Tina Na. Love that song. Hot Time in the Old Town Tonight, for God's sake. My Blue Heaven is on here. When You Wish Upon a Star is on here. Prairie Lullaby, a bunch of standards. Your Cheating Heart is on here. And it's fantastic. It's Leon Redbone, for God's sake. Perfect album. Love Leon Redbone. Okay, next up, from 1982, from May of 1982, I'll explain why I pointed that out here in a second, we have an album by one of my favorite artists, Alan Parsons Project's Eye in the Sky. I love the Alan Parsons Project. I have almost all of their albums. There might be one or two that have slipped me, of the later ones that have slipped by me. But I love the Alan Parsons Project. I listen to this stuff all day long. And this is perfect. There's no skippers. It's wonderful. Eye in the Sky is the song that's on here that the casual audience is most familiar with. There's also Gemini, which I think is just wonderful. Psychobabble, I think, is a wonderful song. Step by Step is great. You're Gonna Get Your Fingers Burned is great. I mean, there's a lot of really good music on here. Big fan of Eye in the Sky, Alan Parsons Project. Also from 1982, from June of 1982, we've got an album by one of my favorite artists, and that is Joe Jackson's Night and Day. This is his fifth album. His first three albums were credited to the Joe Jackson Band, not Joe Jackson. So the Joe Jackson Band did Look Sharp, I'm the Man, and Beat Crazy, which is back there on my wall, which you can see just over my shoulder. All wonderful albums. We've got some contenders for Perfect in there. I just wanted to feature this one first. When the Joe Jackson Band stopped, he took a left turn and did Joe Jackson's Jumpin' Jive, which is a brilliant album, in contention for Perfect album. And then followed that up with Night and Day. And Night and Day, slam dunk Perfect album. This is the song that has, or this is the album, excuse me, that has Steppin' Out on it. Breaking Us in Two received some airplay. But it's also got wonderful songs like Another World, Cancer, Real Men, a slow song. Oh, a slow song. That one makes me cry if I let it. Target. There's a lot of really good stuff on here. Joe Jackson, Night and Day. My 9th album, from a year later, 1983. Again, one of my favorite bands, and one of the bands that I really like that I think is criminally underrated. I think a lot of people should like the Greg Kihn Band. 1983, they released Conspiracy. I love this album. The radio hit that was off of, oh, we got the guys on the back. The radio hit off of this was Jeopardy. Let's see, was anything else released? Tear That City Down might have been released as a single. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But this is just a wonderful album. Most of Greg Kihn's albums are just excellent. Again, guy who knows how to write a pop tune, and musicians who just can crank that stuff out all day long. I really like the Greg Kihn Band, and this, I was about to say this is my favorite of their albums. I don't know. It might not be. It might be. It might not be. It's close. But definitely a perfect album, and definitely worth including in my current list. Particularly fond of Jeopardy, of course. Tear That City Down. Talking to Myself is great. Someday is great. How Long? Oh, How Long is wonderful. If you do not have this album, rush. Get a copy of Conspiracy. Fantastic album. And then finally, my last album. This is from 1985. This one was a monster hit. Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. This album is in the general tier with Heart and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and looking at my list, Mac Davis. I really like this album. No, I'll take Mac Davis back out of that list. So this is back in with Crosby, Stills and Nash, Heart. I really like this album. I'm not a huge fan of Dire Straits otherwise. I mean, I like a few of their songs. I love Romeo and Juliet. But the album that's on, Making Movies, I like that's one of those where I like side one, side two has never worked for me. So I don't have a single skipper on that. I've got a whole side worth of skippers on that. So it definitely does not count as a perfect album. But side one of that album is fantastic. And that's generally how I feel about Dire Straits albums. They're very uneven. There might be one or two songs that I really like, but I'm not going to plow through the whole thing. This one I plow through the whole thing. So Far Away, Money for Nothing, Walk of Life were the huge hits. Why Worry is great. Brothers in Arms is great. Right Across the River is great. There's a lot of really good music on this album. Perfect album. So that's my second group of 10. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you think these are crap albums? Do you think they're great albums? Are there other albums by these artists that you think are better? Drop a comment below. Let me know how you think I did. Otherwise, I would appreciate it very much if you enjoyed the conversation. If you would click the like button. If you think you might enjoy similar conversations in the future, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And if you click the subscribe button, go ahead and click the notification bell as well. I would appreciate that. And again, thank you very much for watching. And I hope that the rest of your day is jubilant. See you soon.